I'd like to express how we're teaching the kids how to take action and kind of the whole idea behind it, and
Why we're better than public school.
in every way.
In every way.
So I teach the older kids, the kids that are school aged right now. That ranges from 6 years to 8 years right now. Typically there's four of them during the summer, sometimes 5. And the way that we teach them, we do go over a lot of academics, but we also focus on like patience and focusing. There's a few of them have attention issues, so being able to, I'm Alicia, so I teach the older kids, ranging from like ages 6 to 8 right now, and we do academics, obviously, we do math and language arts, science and social studies. We also work heavily on focus and patience, and being able to just like interact with each other in a positive way. 2 of the kiddos are on the autism spectrum, and 1 has attention issues, so it's an interesting interaction, to say the least, but they're really thriving as far as socializing goes. And I have experience with public schools and how that went for my own child. Socializing in a public setting for kids that don't really pick up on socializing well, it only taught him bad habits. Like none of the positive things he was doing was reinforced. So I really work hard to make sure I'm reinforcing positive socialization, not just from the kid that is struggling, but also from the kids that aren't struggling. So making sure that they acknowledge the kids that are struggling when they are doing the right thing. Yeah, that's pretty much how things go for me. Mainly focus and patience are the huge spiritual things that we have to work on with them.
Why is focus and patience a spiritual thing?
Without them, you're not going to accomplish anything. Like it's a pretty big concept, and something that does not come very easily to these kids. So really being present and working on their work wholeheartedly, not letting their mind wander somewhere else while they're trying to do something. It really teaches them to be in the moment, to do this to the best of your ability, doing your best on your work. And they've realized quickly that like when they are focusing on it, it goes by a lot quicker and they're able to get to the more fun things. But also patience if they're not understanding things, understanding that some things don't come easy to every person, and that even though you're not good at it yet, and I focus on the yet, like one of the kiddos says that a lot, like I'm not good at this, and I say yet, you're not good at this yet, you will get good at it, you just have to be patient with yourself, allow yourself the time to learn it. And they do, they each learn really well, they each work at their own pace, that's all.
Carolyn, some words? Yep.
Well, I homeschool Lincoln, who's 5, who will be going into kindergarten, and prepping my 7-year-old who's going into 2nd grade at home. And sometimes I also come over here and join the moms, and I do it together with the moms. And Alicia would take Ollie, who's 7, and work with the older kids, while I work with the moms with Lincoln and all the younger kids, prepping them for kindergarten. Typically, we focus on math, language, spelling, sight words. We focus on etiquette, manners. What else do we focus on? Science, artwork.
Arts.
Yeah, arts and crafts.
Yeah, building. Yeah.
Critical thinking. Mostly a lot of things that aren't on school curriculum. It's like daily life as well too.
Yesterday was folding clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot of
chores.
daily life chores. Yeah, helping out, remembering being polite. We always start that before we start schoolwork too, about manners and being polite, please and thank yous, working together, cooperating, teamwork. Pretty much it. About an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, and then we let them do team play, work together, and also have some fun at the same time because everything is supposed to be fun.
So right now I'm working with the little ones, like age like 2 to 3 years, and I'm making them doing more motor skills like writing, just tracing, and counting, coloring, and listening to me, listening to anyone, like yeah, shapes, colors, counting, and more coloring. I just making them to be good at them.
How about how they interact?
And the interaction with people, and playing together, like teamwork, and some fun activities, some art skills, some art and crafts. Pretty much that's it. That's it. I think. Yeah, pretty much that's it. I'm working on it right now, and they're really happy spending all day together, like teamwork and playing, making more fun, messing all over sometimes. Yeah, it was so good. I feel very happy to spend with them too. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have any other questions, Jay?
What are the main differences between the public school and what we're doing here? What are the main differentiators that are really going to stand out as far as our kids' evolutionary process?
I didn't touch on why either. We go over that.
Spending more
Right.
personal time with
There
each
you go.
kid.
So, there you go.
So one of the things that makes us a lot different than public school is we focus on the why they're doing things. So instead of just getting over it that like they dropped something on the floor, hey, you dropped that on the floor, why did that happen? And just getting them to recognize, oh, I wasn't paying attention to the pencils that I left all over the table, so I should pick that up next time. I should clean up my space next time. Also, like, oh, this person's crying. Why are they crying? Just getting them to focus on like why something is happening instead of just observing what is happening, but really understanding what is actually going on. How did this happen? What action caused this result? And that's something that the older kids have been working heavily on. It's been a primary focus for us is understanding how their actions impact their environment and others. And that's something that I don't think public school focuses on really at all. Like they don't really touch on that.
I don't think so.
They're
Just to clarify, the older kids are 6 to 8 years old.
right, 6 to 8 years old. Yeah, and we get into that with the littler kids too. But that is a concept that's pretty high, so it's harder for them to understand. But the older kids the 6 to 8 year olds are able to understand how their actions impact others and how that really affects things around them. So we do focus on that. Another thing that we try to really hammer home with them is that man comes before machine. So they do get to play on electronic devices after things are done. They get to do Just Dance on the Nintendo or different things, but
But it doesn't take precedence.
it doesn't take precedence. And if another kid is here and they're not enjoying that, we make sure to point out like, hey, is this person enjoying that? No? Okay, well, man is more important than machine. We have to make sure that we're socializing with these other kids, that everyone is included, and that we're placing their feelings before we're placing our value on this electronic device, which is, I would say, a pretty big issue in society today. Definitely in our teens and young adults. So
It takes away from being present.
yeah, for sure. Anything you want to add to that?
Sure. Basically, my kind of overarching involvement is to, and I've said this before, is the academics is the means, not the ends. So through academics, we are looking for deeper spiritual and emotional methods to help them become more defined and wholesome human beings. So at the end of the day, it's not about who's more advanced academically, because that's just one indicator of the multitude of what makes a human being, right? But we use those academics to see where they're struggling in terms of self-confidence, self-inner talk, right? The quality of their work, taking pride in their work, taking something to completion, learning a new skill. So these academics are just a means to an ultimate end in creating the best versions of themselves that we can. And even though they're young, we believe that there's no such thing. You always want to plant the seed, because they may not really get it now, but you've planted the seed, it's there. So ultimately one day it will click. And the earlier you plant the seed, the hope is that it clicks sooner rather than later. So as opposed to someone coming to that awareness of the self in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, they might come to the awareness of self much, much earlier, because we've implemented those questions internally within them. And what Alicia was saying is we're talking about the law of causality, right? And that's a huge philosophical principle of moral virtue, is the law of cause and effect. And with public school, I mean, it's kind of in the title, isn't it? Public school is the external public. And so everything is based on the effects of the world. But you cannot change the effect that's already happened, right? Homeschooling is we're focusing on the home, the internal world. And that's the cause, right? And the causality, the why, the origin is the only place you really can affect that change. And so bringing it back home to the self, it's really in the title of homeschool versus public, which is the external persona. We want to bring everything back to the self, is that you are the one responsible for your body, for your thoughts, for your attitudes. What you create is a choice, right? Success is a choice. Failure is a choice. And that's the real schooling that we want to bring back into the world of learning. So that's kind of what I would say our mission here is collectively. And we're all supportive and we all contribute observations and things that we recognize and are concerned about. Yeah.
Like for me, for homeschool, actually is the opportunity for me to learn about myself and like my own children. Like when I send the boy to the public school, I just rely on the teacher, somebody else, like to teach my children. When I actually take a responsibility, like to homeschool my own children, and along with other mom, I get the opportunity to learn more about my children. I can shape the way he grow. Like whatever, like Jay said, whatever I plant the seed, it will. I have the control of planting that seed and see how that seed will flourish, like grow. And at homeschool, we have the children like stand up and then tell story. So they build up their confidence, their self-confidence, and I think that's a great skill later, like how to create a leader in them, how to trust themselves, and then how to build up their self-confidence. And I think that's very, very important. Teach them how to speak up and how to express their idea, and I think that's really good.
Another thing that we've really been working on with them is developing their confidence, making sure that they're applauding their own work. So for them to, it was really common for them to come to us and say, look what I made, and then
seek
like
approval.
to try to
Yeah.
seek something, like for us to compliment them. But now it's to the point that they're bringing it to us and saying, isn't this great? Like they're really building self-confidence, and to be able to compliment themselves, that's really such a joy to watch.
We feel like we've done our job
Yeah.
when they compliment themselves and they're not seeking approval from others, because you only need your own approval before anyone else. It's a great lesson, and we feel like we've done our job.
Is there anything else that you guys are intentionally applying because growing up it wasn't there for you, or the schooling disappointed you in a way, in a sense, and you're really aware of this and you want to make sure that something stands out?
Well, I was telling Jay earlier is the knowing the difference between sharing and taking. Sharing is built on mutual consent, right? But in today's world, if a mom's kid is at the playground playing with a toy and another kid comes over, immediately the reaction these days is share, share, share. You should share. Don't be selfish, you know. But if the other child is not willing, then it's not sharing, it's taking. So you've taught one child that he has no real rights to own or have anything, so there's no point, right? And then you're teaching the other kid that he's just entitled to take whatever he likes. But that's not sharing. Sharing is mutual consent, right? And that's the mix-up of today's world, is we want to make sure that if a kid's playing with a toy that they had first, even if the other kid wants to play with it, the other kid has the right to say, I want to play and share, or I don't want to. And it's not to shame them to sharing, because there are things that are more enjoyable doing by yourself, right? Because you're doing a thought experiment, you're doing a play experiment for yourself, and you're in flow. So we give that child the right to say, no, I don't want to share right now. So then we tell the other kid, so-and-so doesn't want to share right now. They're in the flow of playing, and you need to understand that. And how would you feel if you're in the middle of playing with a toy that you're really enjoying, and then someone comes and is forcing you to give up that toy? So we have to make sure that we understand even the little subtle differences between sharing and taking, because that can create long-term damage. That's the reason why procrastination is through the roof with adults today, because that was kind of the philosophy that a lot of parents took, especially when they had a bunch of children, and they would make the older children, no, you have to share, you have to give this to your younger sibling, you have to give this to your little sister, you have to give it to your younger brother. And so what does that do to a person growing up? Then they don't dare to dream big, they don't dare to own anything. What would be the point, right? Because it just would be taken away from you, and you don't know when that belief system was created within you. But it starts when you're little, right? So those are the way that we collectively perceive those kinds of situations, to teach different, and to make sure that they understand from when they're little that what these words actually mean.
Make sure you go over game theory.
Yeah, we use board games. Again, it's a means to an end, right? It's ultimately not about the board game. It's using the board game for them to understand how to be graceful winners and graceful losers.
And finding another way.
Right, finding another way to win. Winning as a team, winning collectively, right? When you lose, say, good game. Right? And that's really difficult, even for a child, right? For a child, they lose, it's like the end of the world, right? Mm-hmm. And you see adults that are like that too. So we want to cultivate that good sportsmanship, playing for the fun of the game, rather than, playing to always win or playing not to lose. Then those are three different mental paradigms. And so all it takes to accomplish the schooling that you want is a conscious shift and a knowing of yourself. I would tell any parent to go deep within themselves and ask themselves, what do they wish they would have learned? How do they wish they would have learned these things? And experiment, try. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because if you're afraid to make mistakes, you're teaching your kids not to make mistakes, and then you start the cycle all over again, right? If it doesn't work, try something else, try something new. We're trying something new all the time, because you don't want to be rigid and then only having one singular way of doing something. So you want to experiment and then find what works for you, find the flow. There's this secret sauce, really, to getting your kids to learn anything. And I'll tell you what the secret sauce is. Repetition. That's the secret sauce. The 15 spice, be willing to repeat yourself.
1,000 times.
1,000 times, right? That's the secret sauce to teaching anything to anyone, is be willing and patient to repeat yourself over and over. If your kid doesn't understand A, B, C, D on day 1, repeat it day 7. Repeat it day 15, day 30. You repeat it until they get it. And you have to be willing to repeat it depending on the pace that their kid is with. And find different ways. Find another way, right? Be creative. That's really just the secret sauce, is what are the different ways I can teach the alphabet? And how many times am I willing to repeat myself until it clicks, until they get it? And then you move on to something else, right? That's it. That's all it takes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Doing some meditation yoga.
Meditation. Yeah. We throw in that.
Handling with the anger.
Yeah. Yeah. Emotion regulation, things like that. I think the biggest mistake that when people get overwhelmed with the idea of homeschooling is they wonder, how am I going to fill the entire day with academics? You don't. Maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes is academics. The rest of the day is plenty of other things to learn. How do I control anger? How do I practice patience? How do I use imagination? How do I clean up my toys? How do I use my manners? How do I play carefully? How do I share? That's valuable schooling. That's learning. So I think once you put equal, if not more, value on that method of teaching, then you'll see the day goes by really fast. Like, we focus on academics probably for like 60 minutes. After that, it's how do you play? How do you share? How do you put on a puppet show? Right? How do you eat properly? How do you sit? How do you? And it fills up the rest of the day.
And it may not be 60 minutes straight.
Yeah.
You take breaks if they're not able to focus. Here's a trampoline break. Let's go
Yes.
jump on the trampoline for 10 minutes. You
Yes.
know?
Yes.
Or let's go swim. It looks like you need
Right.
some time outside. You know.
Right.
And that's something that the public school doesn't offer.
Right.
It doesn't.
And a lesson for the day can be how to wash our hands properly. That's a lesson for the week, right? It's as simple as that. So don't get overwhelmed in the thought of I'm trying to do all these worksheets and the kid's not seeing through it. Okay, well, throw away the worksheets. They're not working. Or only do one worksheet at a time and then take a break. Find another way to teach, right? Just like we mentioned earlier, we had the kids fold hand towels yesterday. They are learning. They're learning the joy of chores, of responsibility, of folding things, of common sense, right? How do I fold this? How do I get the lines straight?
And
That's
helping one
learning.
another. They were learning how to help each other.
Yeah, and it's hands-on. You can't learn that in a textbook, right? The textbook, you have to understand, is very limited, right? Outside textbook, there's much more limitless things you can teach. Even how to look at a flower, how to notice a flower, how to play with a ladybug, how many legs does it have? Did you ever notice? Did you count? Do you know what is an insect, what's not an insect? Right? That's schooling. And what you can teach is infinite. Like, we had one week where it was all about bumblebees and ladybugs, and another week was about lizards and snakes and birds. That's a whole plants, infinite things that you can teach. Why is the sky blue? That's a whole week of lessons, right? So remember, we take for granted the infinite knowledge around us that we forget has to be learned. Like, how does a tree come to existence? We take for granted that knowledge. So the kids just know that there's a tree, but they have no idea where a tree comes from. There's a lesson, there's a week. It comes from a seed. And from a seed it grows into what? So look at the world around you and look at it through the eyes of a child with curiosity, right? And the hunger to want to know the causation. What caused this to be what it is today? And you never really know a thing unless you know its causality, right? You never know a tree unless you know where it came from. And so if you go into schooling with that approach, what you have to teach is infinite. There's infinite things you can teach.
Can you say more about how you deal with anger management?
Okay.
And what ages?
Let's start with her age range first. Anger management. Same but different.
Well, it depends on what's causing the anger.
External or internal?
Yeah.
Right? Is the external?
Are they angry because they're trying to get out of doing something, or are they angry for some legit reason? Something bothering them? Somebody takes something from them? One of the biggest things that I have learned while homeschooling is to really investigate why. Like, the same thing I'm teaching them, investigate why this is happening. What is causing that anger? And not just superficially, like, okay, somebody took his pencil, but would that really make him that mad? Like, what is causing that buildup? There's something, it's more than just a pencil, you know? So just investigating the true cause of the anger and targeting the source, not just the superficial thing that
The effect,
that
yeah.
may seem like what it is, but it isn't, you know? So it may present as him stealing a pencil or him getting upset because someone stole a pencil from him, but it's actually something much deeper, and really getting to the deeper cause for what's causing that child to be angry will help you solve the true issue. But that's different for each child, so it depends on what's causing the anger as to how we're going to deal with it.
And sometimes you can ask them what's the right thing to do. Like
Oh
that.
yeah,
They
yeah,
can-
for sure.
They
And
can figure it
they can
themselves,
they
you
can
know, they can-
answer that on their own
Yeah.
for sure if that was the right thing to do. They're very quick to be able to say no, that wasn't nice. You know, like I know I didn't
Yeah.
do the right thing, but they don't really understand why they did it until you bring that to their awareness. So really digging in and finding what's the true issue and bringing it to their awareness will help them to overcome their anger.
By digging in, are you asking them questions?
Oh yeah, for sure asking questions. Asking questions and noticing patterns. Really being observant of that child as a whole. Do they seem to have an ongoing issue with with competitive games, or do they have an ongoing issue with other kids finishing before they do, or whatever it might be, you know? If you notice a
Comparing
pattern,
themselves
you
to
can,
others.
right.
Yeah.
If you can find the pattern, it's easier to find the source. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Do you have something to add about the anger?
No.
No. Perfect.
Really? Oh, I feel so good.
Yeah.
Nothing to add.
It was
Wow.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, ladies.
You're welcome.
Oh, I do have one more thing.
Yes.
Reshaping mindsets as far as certain things go. Like, there was one kid that had a certain idea of what a leader would look like, and we really had to reshape that for him. Just understanding like the use of violence and how that doesn't serve the overall
Greater good.
goal, the overall goal for that person even. And he was able to identify that really quickly, but just reshaping little things in their mind, how they're viewing what a leader is, or what a good person is, you know, reshaping that for them and getting them to understand that this is what that truly means, and this is what that would really look like. So getting them to see that is one of the bigger issues that I think we end up coming to is trying to reshape what society has told them this would look like a hero. what does society say a hero is, and just reshaping that this is what a hero really is. This is what a hero really looks like.
Changing his perspective.
Yeah, changing their perspective on what society has already put into their head. Yeah. Okay, that's all.
Awesome.
There's so much more that can be said. You know.
I can do this. I'd like to do it, I don't know, a couple times a month or something, just for updates.
On what the theme was that
Yeah,
week,
if you
what
guys
came
take
up.
field trips, I'd like to join you guys, and
Sure.
this is going to be going on for a while.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, I would say before you teach, study. Before you teach, learn. Before you become a teacher, be a great student first. So before you take on the responsibility of teaching a child, study them first. Study your child. Do you know your child? Do you know what makes them tick? Do you know what motivates them, what demotivates them? I would say study your child first, and then really meditate on that, and then slowly come the game plan, and be open to changing that game plan as things evolve, right? But study before you teach. Read up on things. Get materials and resources. Do a lot of introspection, right? You don't need a big budget. If you have a pen and pencil or and paper, you're fine. You can write out the lesson plan, right? There are free things you can get online. You can look up things, images, and get inspired that way. But go in, to be a good teacher, go in with a hunger to learn about that child and how to best serve that child. And as long as that's your overall goal, you should be fine.